Welcome to Mrs. Bays' 6th grade math video lesson. This lesson series is on integers, and this is the first video in this series. This lesson, we're going to focus our attention on understanding, identifying, and graphing integers. Let's begin by looking at vocabulary. Number 1, whole numbers. Whole numbers start at 0 and continue with positive numbers. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and on. Next is natural numbers. Sometimes they're referred to as also counting numbers, and that should help us remember counting numbers. What number do you start counting? We start at 1. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and on. Notice whole numbers start at 0, natural numbers start at 1. Now let's look at integers. Well, integers are also called signed numbers, and that's because they have a sign in front of the number. So integers are whole numbers, so that means it has 0, and we go in the positive direction, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. But we also go negative numbers, -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, etc. in that direction. So notice when I say sign numbers, negative numbers have to have that negative or minus sign in front of the number. Positive numbers do not have to have a positive sign in front unless otherwise indicated, and I'll show you what I mean by that in just a few moments. Horizontal just means that we're going left to right. And vertical is up and down. Now let's look at a table that might help us out. This table is talking about the measuring tool, what is being measured with that tool, and how is it being measured. So first we're going to look at a number line. Number lines are horizontal most of the time. They measure distance, and we call those units. And later on, we might call those like inches, feet, yards, miles, or centimeters, meters, kilometers. But right now, we're just going to stick with the word units. A thermometer is a measuring tool. It measures temperature, and usually you'll find these vertical. And what is being measured is above 0, 0, and below 0. Next is altimeter, and that measures elevation. So you will see the words or the phrases above sea level, at sea level, or below sea level. Now let's look at another table, and this table is just a list of signal words or phrases that will help you identify if the number is supposed to be negative or positive. And there's several here that we will be looking at. Both of the tables that I've shown you are on your Google Classroom if you wanted to make your own table or if you wanted to print it off. Well, let's look at an example. Or 5 examples. Number 1, withdrawal of $50. So if I look at this table, see withdrawal is negative. So that means I'm going to need the negative symbol. And then we're going to label with a $sign, 50. So this represents a withdrawal of $50. Number 2, we see the word profit. That's our key word or phrase. So let's look at the table. Well, and we're looking for the word profit. And here's the word profit, and it's in the positive column. And so that means we're going to use the positive symbol or the plus sign. So profit is plus. A profit of $125.32. Well, that's labeled with a dollar sign in front. $125 and, that's a decimal point, 32 cents. Number 3, 10 feet below sea level. Below sea level is our key phrase or signal phrase. So let's look for that. Below sea level, right here, below sea level, and that's in the negative column. So we're going to use the negative symbol, and it's 10 feet, and we will label it feet. Negative 10 feet. Next is 32 degrees, that's the degree symbol. 32 degrees above zero. So we're going to look for the key phrase above zero. So again, we look at this table, and above zero is right here in the positive column, above zero. So it means we'll use a plus sign, and then 32, and then the degree symbol. Next is gained 10 yards. So our key word is gained. So let's look for that using this table. Gained. Gained is right here. And notice it's in the positive column. So we're going to use a plus to represent the word gained. 10 yards. And last is 6, charge of 5 protons. So we're going to look at this table, and here's positive charge is protons. So that would be plus 5. And we are talking about protons. So there's a little science thrown in. All right, let's look at a few more examples. We have negative, 0, and positive. So let's just do a few examples so you can see what I mean by signs. Negative numbers always have that minus sign or negative in front. So let's say -1, -2. We can have much bigger numbers like -10 or -500. So those are just a few. 0 isn't negative and 0 isn't positive. It's neutral. It's neither negative or positive. Now, positive numbers can be like 1, 2, 10, and 500, where you don't see the plus sign in front. But sometimes, like I showed you in the prior examples, that we do need a positive number marked with a plus sign in front. And those are just a couple examples. Now let's look at identify integers on a number line. So as the numbers go to the right, the numbers get larger or bigger. And as numbers follow a number line to the left, they get smaller. So let's look at this in more detail so we can see what that means. Okay, so I'm looking at a number line, and the only thing I've numbered is 0. That's supposed to be the middle of a number line. So numbers that go to the right grow larger. So let's label that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And notice these little marks are called tick marks, and they indicate a location on the number line. Now let's go to the left of 0, and as we go left, they are the opposite of these numbers that go to the right. So the first tick mark to the left would be a -1. The second tick mark to the left would be -2. The third tick mark to the left is -3. The fourth tick mark to the left is -4. Then -5 and -6. And I don't have room for a -7, which here's +7. I don't have room for -7. Now let's look at the next one. Notice I have some of the numbers marked, but I don't have them all marked, and we need to fill in those missing spots. So let's start at 0 and let's go to the right. So notice we have one tick mark between 0 and 2. So what's halfway between 0 and 2? Well, that's 1. Here's 2 and 4 and one tick mark in the middle. So what's halfway between 2 and 4? That's 3. What's halfway between 4 and 6? 5. So notice 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Next is 7. Now let's go to the left of 0. So we have 0, and what would be halfway between 0 and -2? Well, that's -1. What's halfway between -2 and -4? That's -3. Halfway between -4 and -6 is -5. Okay, let's look at the third number line. This one, notice that I'm not increasing each tick mark by ones or decreasing by ones, but by another number. So let's start at 0. Notice this tick mark is 2. Next one is 4. 0, 2, 4, something, something, 10. So what are we increasing by? By 2's. 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Now let's go to the left. Here's 0, -2, one tick mark between -2 and -6 would be -4. So -2, -4, -6, -8, -10, and here's -12. Now number lines can have increments, that's what they're called, increments of 2's, as in this example. They could go up by 3's, they could go by 4's, by 5's, by 10's, just about any whole number that you like or integer. But notice at this point we don't have any fractions or decimals. We'll talk about that later. Okay, let's look at the next example, and this is plotting points on a number line. Sometimes you'll see it ask you to plot or graph points on a number line. So the first one we're supposed to graph is A. Notice these are all capital letters. A at 2. Well, here's my number line, and notice I don't see the number 2, so we need to fill in the number line so we can find 2. So let's start at 0. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tick marks before we get to 6. So that looks like we could have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's fill that in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's 6 and 7. That's how you determine what those numbers should be. So do they go up by 1s? Do they go by 2s? Do they go by 4s? You're looking at how many tick marks between the numbers to determine what each tick mark should represent, by what number. Now let's go to the left. We have 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then a -6. So that could be -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, and -6. So let's write those in. -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, and we already have -6. Now we should be able to plot these points. A is at 2, so I start at 0 and I find 2 on the right. We're going to put a nice big dot on the number line and label above it with the capital A. So we just plotted or graphed point A at 2. That's how we say it properly. Now let's look at B. B is supposed to be at -2. Well, this -2 is on the left of 0. So notice here's -2. So I'm going to put a dot at -2 on the number line and label it capital B above. So this is point B at -2. C is supposed to be at 6. Notice 6 is positive, so that's going to be on the right. We put a dot on the number line and capital C above it. So this is point C at 6. And last is D at -4. -4 is a negative number. That's on the left of 0. So here's 0, and -4 is here. So we put a nice dot on the number line and capital D above it. This is point D at -4. All right, let's look at a couple examples. Write the integer value that each point represents. So we're looking for E, F, G, and H. So here's E. Well, notice I found point E very quickly, but I don't know what number is being represented here. So here's 0, here's +5, and -5. So maybe we should number these so we know exactly where each point is located. So here we go. Let's start on the right. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so that looks like that's increasing by 1. So let's fill that in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's 5, 6, 7. Now let's go to the left. Here's 0, and I count tick marks. 1, 2, 3, 4, and here's -5. So these are negatives. -1, -2, -3, -4. Here's -5. This would be -6. So where is point E located? At -6. Where's F located? F is located at 2. Where's G? Here's G, point G, and it's located at -3. And last H, here's H, and it's located at 5. Now let's look at the practice I would like for you to do for this lesson. I want you to go to IXL, 6th grade, M.1, and you should see the words Understanding Integers. Next, I want you to go to IXL, 6th grade, and do M.2, Integers on a Number Line. And last for this lesson, IXL, 6th grade, M.3, and you should see Graph Integers on Horizontal and Vertical Number Lines. Now, I know this looks like a lot of work for one lesson, but I promise once you get into it, and if you've paid attention to the video, these will go very, very quickly. I want you to go to at least 80% to get full credit, and I would really like for you to strive for 100 to get your bonus point, especially since these are very simple and it should take you very little time, honestly, to get to 100. Thank you.